My name is Harper Brooks. I'm 33 years old, and until about 3 weeks ago, I believed that if you built your life carefully enough, nothing really collapsed without warning. Not overnight, not without signs. I work as a logistics coordinator for a medical supply company in Phoenix. My job is simple in theory: solve problems before they become emergencies. I deal in schedules, systems, clarity. I like knowing where things are, how they move, when they arrive. Control isn't something I chase. It's something I build. And for a long time, I thought my relationship reflected that. Ethan Cole is 30, charismatic in a way that feels effortless, the kind of man who knows exactly how he's being perceived in real time and adjusts accordingly. He works in marketing for a fitness brand, which means everything in his world revolves around presentation, image, energy, how things look from the outside. We had been together a little over 2 years. For the last 8 months, he'd been living in my townhouse. At least, technically. Because the truth is, toward the end, it stopped feeling like we were building a life together and started feeling like I was renting emotional space inside one of his moods. Ethan believed chaos meant chemistry. He thought dramatic conversations meant passion. He thought jealousy was proof of love. And boundaries? Boundaries were, in his words, insecurity with better branding. Every time I tried to explain why something mattered to me, he'd smile, just slightly, and say, "You're too serious, Harper. Love is messy." No, bad love is messy. Good love is honest. The biggest point of tension between us had a name: Lila, his ex-girlfriend. Not recent enough to be understandable, not distant enough to be irrelevant, just always there, hovering, present in small, deniable ways. According to Ethan, she was just someone he used to know. According to reality, she texted him late at night, sent songs, reacted to his stories, somehow always appeared exactly when he needed advice. I told him early on that I didn't like it, not because I assumed he'd cheat, but because I didn't believe a healthy relationship needed a backup audience. He said I was old-fashioned. I said I was paying attention. The moment everything ended happened on a Saturday afternoon. We were at a tapas place downtown. Quiet, warm lighting, soft music, one of those places designed to make conversations feel more important than they are. Ethan had barely touched his food. I could tell. He had something prepared, something rehearsed. He set his fork down, leaned back slightly, and said, "Lila asked me to go to Lake Pleasant with her tomorrow, just for the day. She wants closure. And honestly, I think it would be good for both of us." For a second, I thought I misheard him. "You want to spend the day at a lake with your ex?" I said slowly. "For closure? While you're in a relationship with me?" He tilted his head like I was the one complicating something simple. "It's not like that." "Then why does it sound exactly like that?" He laughed, short, impatient. The kind of laugh people use when they think they're obviously smarter than whoever they're talking to. And then he said it, the line that ended everything. "If you loved me, you'd trust me with her." Just like that. Clean, casual, practiced. I looked at him for maybe 3 seconds. Not because I was confused, because suddenly, everything made sense. Every argument where I ended up apologizing for having normal concerns. Every moment where I was called and controlling for not wanting to be quietly disrespected. Every conversation where love was turned into something I had to prove by accepting things that felt wrong. I put my napkin down. "Then this isn't love." He blinked. I don't think he expected that. He expected resistance, emotion, negotiation, maybe even me asking what I could do to fix it. Instead, I reached for my purse, paid my half of the bill, and stood up. He followed me outside onto the sidewalk. "Harper, don't be dramatic. Seriously? Over this?" I turned once. "No," I said, "not over this. Over what this says." Then I got in my car and drove home. He texted before I even pulled into the driveway. "Are you seriously acting like this right now? You embarrassed me. Call me. You know Lila and I are done. You always make everything extreme." I didn't respond. I walked inside, opened the hallway closet, and pulled out 3 storage bins. Then I started packing. Not throwing, packing. Carefully. Folded clothes, shoes, toiletries, gym gear, the coffee mugs he insisted were better than mine, the framed photos he brought, the little things people leave behind when they think they're permanent. I took pictures as I went. Every drawer, every shelf, every cleared space. Slow, methodical, nothing damaged, nothing missing. By 6 that evening, everything that was clearly his was packed into labeled bins and 2 suitcases. All of it stacked neatly in the garage. Then I changed the keypad code on the front door. Then I sent one message. "Your things are packed and in the garage. You can pick them up tomorrow between 11 and 2. Bring someone with you if you want. Everything is documented." He called immediately. I let it ring. Then again. And again. 23 times in a little over an hour. Finally, a text. This is insane. I stared at the screen for a moment, then typed back, "Yes, you did." That night, he posted a story from some rooftop bar. Caption, "Choosing freedom." I only saw it because my friend Nalin sent a screenshot with one line underneath. Well, that escalated fast. I didn't reply. Instead, I made coffee. I vacuumed the living room. I changed the sheets. And for the first time in months, I sat in my own house and felt how quiet it was when nobody was trying to turn normal boundaries into emotional crimes. The next morning, he showed up at 11:14, right on time, with his sister Vanessa in the passenger seat. I had the garage door open before they arrived. Everything already lined up. Labeled, accounted for, controlled. Ethan stepped out wearing sunglasses and something that looked like confidence, but didn't quite land. He looked at the bins, then at me, then back at the bins. "So that's it," he said. 2 years and you're acting like I died?" "No," I said calmly. "If you had died, I'd be grieving. I'm just done." His jaw tightened. "I didn't mean it like that." "You meant it enough to say it." Ethan crossed his arms, shifting his weight like he was trying to find the version of himself that usually worked on me. "You're really going to end something real because I asked for trust?" "No," I said. "I'm ending it because love isn't a test. You keep inventing new ways to make me fail." Vanessa went very still at that. "Good. Witnesses are useful." For the next 10 minutes, Ethan did what people do when control starts slipping. He changed masks. First offended, then wounded, then soft, then angry again. At one point, he stepped closer and lowered his voice. "You're going to regret this when you calm down." I am calm now. That bothered him more than anything. They loaded the last suitcase. Ethan stood beside the car door and looked at me like he was waiting for me to break. "You're not even going to ask if I still love you?" "No," I said. "Because if this is how you act when you say you love me, the answer doesn't help." Then I closed the garage door and went back inside. By midnight, I had 31 missed calls from 4 different numbers. That was the first day. 3 days later, the flying monkeys started. First was Marcus, Ethan's best friend. He texted from a number I didn't recognize. "Hey, I know this is awkward, but Ethan is a mess. He said you kicked him out over a misunderstanding. Can you just talk to him like an adult?" I read it twice. Then I sent one screenshot. "If you loved me, you'd trust me with her." No explanation. No paragraph. No emotional defense. Just Ethan's words. Marcus took 7 minutes to respond. Wow. That was it. Just wow. Then silence. Next came Vanessa. I actually liked Vanessa. She was practical, quiet, married, not dramatic. She called that night and said, "I'm not calling to get involved. I just want to know if what he's saying is true." I said, "Which version?" She sighed. "Yeah, that tracks." So I told her everything. The lunch, the lake trip, the sentence, the pickup, the documented bins, the 4 numbers, the missed calls. When I finished, she was quiet for a second. Then she said, "For whatever it's worth, I think you did the right thing." That surprised me. She must have heard it in my voice because she added, "Ethan does this thing where he keeps pushing until someone bends. Then he calls that love." An unexpected ally. I appreciated that. "I'm not trying to punish him," I said. "I just meant it." "I know," Vanessa said. "That's why he can't handle it." That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. The next morning, my doorbell camera caught Ethan on my porch at 6:12 a.m. He was holding a cardboard drink carrier from the coffee place I liked, and a paper bag from the bakery down the street. He stood there for almost a minute like he expected me to magically open the door because he had brought croissants. Then he set the bag down, slid an envelope under the mat, and walked away. I watched the whole thing from my bedroom on the app. I didn't open the door. The note said, "Real love doesn't quit after one hard conversation." I actually laughed. Not because it was funny, because it was so perfectly him. One sentence, and somehow he had rewritten the entire situation, so he became brave, and I became emotionally defective. I threw the note away. That same afternoon, he sent me a Venmo request for $684. Label, moving cost, emotional distress. No message, just the request. I declined it. Then I changed the passwords on the streaming accounts, the grocery delivery app, and the shared music subscription. Petty? Maybe. Accurate? Also yes. He no longer lived there. That night around 10:40, I got a call from an unknown number. A woman's voice said, "Hi, I'm calling because Ethan had a panic attack and asked for you. He's at urgent care and he really needs you." I was quiet for half a second. Then I said, "Which urgent care?" The woman paused too long. "The one off Camelback." "There are several near Camelback." Another pause. I thanked her, hung up, and called Vanessa. She picked up on the second ring, and before I even finished saying his name, she sighed. He's at Marcus's apartment drinking whiskey and crying at a ceiling fan. So no urgent care. No urgent care. There it was. Fake crisis. Right on schedule. Vanessa sounded embarrassed. I told her not to be. None of this was her mess. I told him to leave you alone, she said. I know. For the next week, Ethan kept trying new angles. An email asking if he could just get closure. A long text from another number saying he forgave me for being hurtful and was willing to move past it. A message through a mutual friend claiming he'd left his grandfather's watch at my place. He had not. Fortunately, I had photos. Lots of them. When I packed his things, I photographed every bin, every bag, every shelf after it was cleared. If someone wanted to create fiction later, I had a full visual library. Meanwhile, life got strangely better. I joined a Thursday evening run club with Naylan because he was tired of hearing me think and wanted me to move instead. I started sleeping harder. I stopped checking my phone every 10 minutes out of habit. At work, my manager Melissa put me in charge of a new hospital account because, in her words, I stayed calm when other people didn't. Funny how that quality becomes more visible once chaos leaves your living room. Then on Friday, just when things had been quiet for almost 48 hours, Ethan showed up again. This time he was standing beside my car when I came out of the office parking deck. No yelling, no tears, just standing there in a gray sweater like he was auditioning for forgiveness. I stopped a few feet away. How did you know where I park? You told me once, he said softly. I remembered. That wasn't romantic. It was data collection. He stepped closer. I just need you to say this relationship mattered. It did, I said. That's why I ended it when you made it transactional. His face changed. You always have to sound smarter than everyone. No, I said. I just don't confuse control with love anymore. Then I got in my car and drove away while he stood there staring after me. 10 minutes later, he texted from another number. You're going to hate yourself when I finally stop trying. That message got screenshotted too. Two things got worse before they got legal. About 2 weeks after the breakup, Melissa called me into her office and closed the door behind me. There's a man downstairs asking for you, she said. Claims he's your boyfriend and says it's an emergency. I didn't even hesitate. Ex-boyfriend, I said. Not an emergency. Melissa studied my face for a second. He's emotional. I unlocked my phone and handed it to her. She scrolled through the screenshots. The original message. The repeated calls. The fake urgent care stunt. The parking deck appearance. The different numbers. When she handed the phone back, her expression had shifted from curiosity to something sharper. Absolutely not. Security escorted Ethan out before I ever had to see him. But he left a card at the front desk. On the front, it said, "Love means fighting for each other." Inside, "I'm fighting for us because you're too proud to." I photographed that too, and added it to a folder on my desktop labeled Ethan Documentation. When you have to name a folder after someone, the relationship is over in more ways than one. That same week, he started posting online. Vague quotes about narcissists, about emotional unavailability, about women who punish men for honesty. A mutual friend, Jada, sent me screenshots with one line underneath. He's definitely not telling the whole story. I replied with the same screenshot I'd sent Marcus. If you loved me, you'd trust me with her. Jada's response was immediate. Oh, absolutely not. Then came the work email. Somehow, Ethan found my company directory. He sent a message from a fake Gmail account to Melissa and HR claiming I'd been unstable since the breakup, that I was harassing him, that he was afraid I might show up at his workplace. That was his mistake, because lying privately is one thing. Writing it down for professionals is another. HR scheduled a meeting. I came in prepared. Screenshots, timestamps, doorbell camera footage, the card from the lobby, everything. Melissa backed me completely. Security updated their records with his photo. HR told me not to respond to anything and to keep documenting. Then Melissa added, off the record, if you need to involve a lawyer, do it now before this gets more expensive. That turned out to be very good advice. I had a consultation with an attorney named Daniel Reed on a Tuesday afternoon. I sent him everything in advance. He called me back 20 minutes later. You've already done the most important thing, he said. You stayed calm and kept receipts. He drafted a cease and desist letter that same week. Simple. Formal. No emotion. No explanation. Stop contacting Harper Brooks. Stop appearing at her home or workplace. Stop making false statements to her employer. Future contact will be documented for legal action. The letter went out certified mail on Thursday. On Friday, Ethan violated it. Of course he did. I was at a wine bar in North Phoenix. It was my first date since everything ended. His name was Noah Bennett, 31. a physical therapist. He had this calm presence that didn't feel forced, the kind of person who listened without scanning the room for better options. We were halfway through appetizers when Ethan appeared beside our table. I don't know how he found me. Social media, a mutual contact, or just bad luck. He looked at Noah, then at me, then let out a thin, sharp laugh. "Wow," he said. "So this is why you moved on so fast." Noah didn't flinch. He looked at me calmly and said, "Do you want me to call someone?" That alone told me everything I needed to know about him. I stood up. "Ethan, you need to leave." He ignored me, kept his eyes on Noah. "You know she throws men out when they ask for honesty, right?" "Manager," I said, already turning. That's when his face twisted. He grabbed my water glass and knocked it into my lap. Not wine. Not something dramatic enough for a story he could spin. Just water. Childish. Public. Deliberate. The manager came over. Then security. And like someone flipped a switch, Ethan started crying. Loud enough for people to turn. "He's humiliating me," he said, pointing at me. "She's doing this on purpose." I said nothing. Security escorted him outside. The manager asked if I wanted to call the police. "Yes," I said. An officer took statements. I showed the cease and desist letter, the screenshots, the timeline. The officer asked, "Do you want to pursue a trespass complaint?" "Yes," I said again. Later that night, Daniel emailed me. "We have enough now to file for a protective order if you want one." I stared at the screen for a long moment, because by then it wasn't heartbreak anymore. It wasn't confusion. It wasn't unfinished love. It was harassment wearing romantic makeup. I replied with one word, "Yes." The hearing was 4 weeks later. I wore a navy suit, brought a binder, and slept just fine the night before. That alone told me everything had already changed. Ethan arrived in a light gray shirt, sleeves rolled just enough to suggest effort without looking formal. His hair was styled, his posture controlled, like he was preparing for a conversation, not a consequence. He wasn't alone. On his side sat his attorney. And next to him, his mother. Not Vanessa. Not Marcus. His mother. That told me two things immediately. One, Ethan had convinced someone older, someone with authority in his life, that he was the victim. Two, it wasn't going to hold. Because facts age well. Stories don't. Daniel noticed her before I did. He leaned slightly toward me and murmured, "He dressed for redemption. That's not what this is." When our case was called, everything felt quieter than it should have. Daniel kept it simple. He walked the judge through the progression. The breakup. The repeated calls from multiple numbers. The fake medical emergency. The visits to my home. The parking deck. My workplace. The wine bar. The false email to my employer. The violation of the cease and desist. The police report. Step by step. No emotion. Just sequence. Then he handed over the evidence. Screenshots. Photos. Logs. The judge read in silence. That silence stretched longer than it probably was. But in that moment, it felt like everything depended on it. Then Ethan's attorney stood. "My client," he began, "was attempting to seek closure after a meaningful relationship ended abruptly. His actions were not malicious, but emotional." Closure. That word again. Daniel didn't even look at him when he replied. Closure does not include repeated unwanted contact, employer interference, false allegations, or appearing uninvited during personal engagements. The judge nodded once. Then she looked at Ethan. "Would you like to speak?" And this was where he thought he could fix it. He stood, straightened slightly, and looked at the judge with carefully controlled emotion. "I loved her," he said. "I didn't understand how final she was being. We had something real, and I was trying to save it." His voice softened. "I didn't mean for things to go this far." The judge tilted her head slightly. "Did you tell her, if you loved me, you'd trust me with her?" Ethan went quiet. Just for a second. Then he said, "I didn't mean it the way she took it." There it was. The pattern. The same sentence structure. Nothing counts once consequences arrive. The judge looked down at the documents again. "Your intent," she said calmly, "stopped mattering when she clearly told you not to contact her, and you continued." She flipped a page. The repeated phone calls. Another page. The appearance at her home. Another. The false report to her employer. Another. The incident at the restaurant. By the time she finished, Ethan wasn't performing anymore. He was just sitting there, quiet, still, real. The judge closed the file. "The court is granting a protective order for 1 year. Her voice was steady. "No contact, no third-party contact. You are to remain at least 300 feet away from Miss Brooks's residence and workplace." Clean. Direct. Final. After the hearing, I gathered my things and stepped into the hallway. I expected something. A comment. An accusation. A last attempt. But it didn't come from Ethan. It came from his mother. She stepped toward me slowly. For a second, I thought she might defend him, or blame me, or try to rewrite everything one last time. Instead, she said quietly, "I saw the messages this morning." I didn't respond. I just waited. She shook her head slightly. "I'm sorry." That was it. No explanation. No justification. Just sorry. I nodded once. "Thank you." Then I walked away. Life got boring after that. Beautifully, quietly boring. Ethan tried one more workaround 3 days later through an old college friend. Daniel handled it. One response. A copy of the order. No emotion. That was the end. At work, everything settled. Melissa later told me HR had documented everything and appreciated how measured I'd been through the entire situation. 2 weeks after the hearing, I was promoted to senior logistics lead on a regional account expansion. Funny how much space success has when chaos moves out. And Noah, he stayed. We took things slowly at first, because I wanted slow. I wanted easy. I wanted honest. And he respected that without acting like he was being punished for it. Sometimes he texts first. Sometimes I do. Nobody turns communication into leverage. Nobody asks for proof of love in the form of discomfort. A month ago, we were making dinner at my place. He opened the junk drawer and laughed because everything inside was sorted into labeled containers. I shrugged. "I like knowing where things are." He smiled. "Me too." That was it. That was the whole thing. Peace sounds boring to people who are addicted to drama. To me, it sounds like home. The biggest lesson in all of this is simple. Love does not demand confusion to prove itself. Love does not ask you to ignore your instincts so someone else can feel powerful. Love is not a test with moving goalposts. And love is definitely not something you weaponize every time you want permission to act single while keeping relationship benefits on reserve. Ethan kept saying if I loved him, I would trust him with her. But the truth is, if he had loved me, he never would have asked.